Hello, everyone. We're here with the Welcome Committee, and I'd like you both to introduce yourselves and maybe tell us how long you've been on the committee and maybe why you're on the committee. And we'll start with Halima.
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, this is the one committee which almost every resident at Woodland Pond has passed through. So we have that distinction. I've been on for about 9 years. The committee started shortly after we opened. The first director, Cynthia, heard about a similar type of committee at another CCRC and suggested we have one here. And I was recruited by a couple of the members at that time. The chairman of the committee is Alice Cross, and she couldn't be here today. And I'm the facilitator.
I'm June Feiner, and I've been on the committee about 4 years, I think. And it used to be that I would go into the city for a couple of days, and so I wasn't on any of the committees. But when I stopped doing that 4 years ago, I started joining committees. So I joined the Dining Committee and the Welcome Committee. And it's proved to be a very useful and positive experience. So I've been here a total of 12 years, but only been active on this committee for about 4 years.
I'm Annette Johnson, member of Residence Council, and of course, the Welcome Committee. I joined as soon as I thought I would be of any use when I was new. So maybe almost 3 years ago. And we miss Alice today, but she'll be with us if we do this again. Now, maybe one of you, perhaps June, could tell us, either one, the purpose of the Welcome Committee.
Well, I can read you the mission statement and then we can go from there. The mission statement as written and approved in July of 2018, I guess this was reworked. The purpose of the Woodland Pond Welcome Committee is to assist new residents in making a smooth, orderly, and comfortable transition to their new home. To accomplish this, new residents are assigned a personal mentor who will provide information and orientation to Woodland Pond. New residents are encouraged to seek informational assistance from their mentors. Confidentiality is a primary component of this orientation.
Thank you. Halima, maybe you could, or one of you, could give me some background information on the committee.
Sure. Right now, we have 14 members, and they are assigned new residents, mostly based on the wing that the new resident is coming into, but not always. For example, if someone has a contact with a new resident, maybe they worked together, maybe they went to the same college, then that would be a more natural kind of matching. The committee meets twice a month. The second Tuesday of each month is a meeting in which we go over the list of new residents that are coming in, which we get from our marketing department. They give us the new resident, the apartment, and the tentative move-in date. And from that, we assign mentors. The second meeting each month on the last Friday of the month is an orientation where all of the new residents that have moved in that month come and hear general information, have a chance to ask questions, and have a chance to meet one another.
Okay. I'd like to add one thing to give people a really good idea of what this committee has done. And maybe we've worked harder recently than ever before. I don't know. But since June of 2020, which is more than just 2021, we have mentored, or will have by the end of the year, 51, that's 51 people. And I can assure you, a small committee has been very busy, or will be throughout the rest of the month, dealing with 51 people. Now you can subtract like 10 or something for, you know, that was all we had in 2020 on this list that I'm counting. So maybe we're only dealing with 40 people in 2021, but still that's a tremendous number for a small committee.
I'd like to add that COVID, of course, provided challenges when new residents were moving in, but they had no opportunity to be part of the community because we were locked down. So what I did was I started putting mini bios and photos in the newsletter, hoping that people would start reaching out to them, even though they couldn't have dinners, but they would say, oh, I see you went to Syracuse University. Hi, my name is Jane, that kind of thing.
That was great.
Yeah, and that has continued. Now, marketing asks each new resident to write a small bio. Some of them do, some of them don't. And I take pictures, some of them like them, some of them don't. But it's a way of at least letting you know, hey, listen, this person is new in the North Wing, etc. I mentioned the North Wing because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that's where most of our recent move-ins have been, North Wing.
Well, put it this way, we need more mentors who live in the North Wing. There don't seem to be as,
We have more in the South, more mentors in the South Wing.
right,
Yeah.
and Central.
Well, you raise an interesting point. We have a mentor job description. And if any person were interested, we would sit down with them and go over the job description and see if it was something that they felt they could fulfill and they were interested in.
Well, I think maybe what we could do is let people know what some of our procedures and activities are, starting with marketing. And either one of you can flow with that one. Some of the materials we use, some of the things we go over.
Well, the marketing gives them a welcome bag, and in that bag, there's the resident handbook.
Mhm.
And they're very much encouraged to read the handbook, although, you know, in the chaos of moving in, it's unlikely that they will actually read it until a month or two later. And we had found that some of the sections needed amplification or explanation, and the Welcome Committee did create a secondary package, like a little handbook, that emphasized some of the detail that might be omitted in the original one. But I don't know if I haven't had one lately. I think because of COVID, we haven't been issuing the whole handbook anymore.
I agree.
I wasn't given one for the last person that I mentored.
No.
So one of us did make a list of, you know, some of the major things to be discussed.
And I'll
And,
cover some of
you
that.
know,
That's
we could
wonderful. I
show
use that.
which are the ones that are more important, we think are perhaps more important.
And Dave, your wife had a big hand in making the tailored list. Thank you
Pardon
for
me,
that.
I didn't catch that, Halima.
Dave's wife, Susan, was the one who.
She did that
developed it.
checklist, right?
Mhm.
I have mentoring in my bones because my career before moving here was mentoring new teachers. And you all know, if you've ever started a new job, it's not natural that you know where to go, where the keys for the closet are, where you get memo pads, where you do anything. And it's somewhat similar with moving into Woodland Pond. We realize that most people are moving here from their own homes.
Mhm.
I moved here from a co-op, which had rules and regulations. But when people come here, rules and regulations and guidelines are something that need to be explained for most of them. You know, in a good way, but they don't know, you can't know what you don't know. So, did you want to go over some of the checklist or you want me to? When we have the orientation, there are 4 areas which we cover specifically in addition to all the other things that June is going to mention. First and foremost is safety. We talk about the alarm, the ear-piercing alarm, which many of them have not heard when they move in. We talk about the necessity of wearing the PERS. We mentioned that they need to be in touch with housekeeping to set up a regular cleaning schedule. And dining, how to reserve. Well, of course, we didn't have dining reservations until recently, but the whole dining situation is something that they need to know. And beyond that, June can add some of the other areas that we cover
Well, I think one of the most important things that we try and get across is that if in doubt, call the concierge, because so many things go through that desk. And I don't think that people realize that they often have the answers to their questions. I was particularly interested in the education of the new residents in the trash and garbage and composting issues. And we try very hard to train or guide or lead the new people, sometimes going with them
Oh, yeah.
to the room and showing them the list of items that go in the different containers, encouraging them to get some sort of a composting container in their apartment and describing to them where the bins are, because especially if you're in the central wing, I know it's not an easy task to get to the compost bin. Those things, are very important, I think, for a new person. As Halima said, many of the people do come from private homes and they would have like a compost heap in the garden, but they wouldn't think about collecting it in their kitchen and then putting it in a special bin. They would just throw it out as they needed to. So people have lived with a different kind of a lifestyle than when they come here. So we try to explain all of that and explain all the things that can be recycled and can't be recycled. One of the other things that we had noticed was the very much importance of the directory, the telephone directory. We want to make sure that all the new people got both the directory and Woodland Life, and that they realize the importance of the Chanticleer as a constant flow of information.
And I'd like to add to that, the trip list. Now, I know they may not want to go on a trip the day they get there or the next day even, and maybe not even the next month, but some of them do because their families help them get settled and they're ready to move, and they should at least know what's going on. So I try to get them a trip list.
Another important question that comes up at the orientations is the whole issue of health. What does the wellness nurse do? If I get sick, will she help me? And we explain that the wellness nurse is not here to help you with your medical situation. She's here to give you information, maybe check your blood pressure, your temperature, and refer you to doctors. But she is not here for care. We did temporarily have a nurse here on the weekends, but then she was recruited because of COVID next door. So it is just Mary Jo. We do tell them about First Care and that it's only 3 miles east of here, and that's a possible asset for them. Some of them have their own doctors, but more and more we see people coming in who are from parts separate from this region. So they are looking for doctors, and Mary Jo is a wonderful source. And also we tell them, find out from other residents as you get to know them. They're a wonderful resource of doctors. There's hardly a person here that hasn't had some kind of a limb operated on, so they can check with knees and hips and shoulders, and it's available.
And one of the other things that we always mention is our transportation system. We have several small buses that take people to different places, one of which is the trips. But a more important thing is taking people to medical appointments and or shopping. And there is a schedule, and the bus goes to Kingston on Mondays and Poughkeepsie Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, and Wednesdays, New Paltz for mostly for shopping, and Saturday for some shopping. And Sunday, they take people to various churches and places of worship. So it's important that, again, that people know these things, and they have to sign up 72 hours in advance in order to make sure that they get a place on the bus. And they should also know at the moment that we are requiring people to be masked on the bus. And we always try and remind people to carry with them their vaccination card and personal ID, because there are certain places where you require those for entrance.
Most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Vassar College, Bardavon.
Yeah.
I haven't been to any place that doesn't require. They're very, very careful. they won't let you in the door.
One of the other things that comes up, a new resident will say, I have a lot of artwork to be hung. How do I do that? And we put them in touch with maintenance. I think there's a 1 hour, I'm not sure. I think there's a 1 hour free hanging stuff. And after that, there's a $30 an hour fee, but that's available to any resident who wants help hanging paintings, pictures, art, whatever. I think June mentioned, we try to have them read all of the communications here, and there are many, and they're confusing. But the mentor works with each of the residents on the Chanticleer, the Woodland Life, 1340, big asset for Michelle's talks. And it's overwhelming. And you might say, well, how long does the mentoring take? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? The hallmark of a good mentor is that the mentee doesn't need them for a very long time, because they know how to be self-sufficient. They know how to get this information. We're available as long as they want us, but we are encouraging them to be independent and find the information themselves.
I actually called my mentor for as long, not very often at the end, for 2 years, because I figured if I wanted a correct answer, and it was possible she could do it. And of course,
Yeah.
it was useful.
Yeah.
And I could rely on it.
Okay, let's see.
One of the other things is just to be available, as Annette says. And that means going with them to dinner when the dining room is open, and trying to introduce them to people who might have similar interests.
Right.
And again, our directory is very important, and many of the new residents realize that, and they go to our photo directory, which includes photographs of
Excuse
each.
me, you mean the big books that
Yes,
are on the
the
table?
big book, which is in 4 places. It's in the library, it's in it's in the lobby, and it's in the hallway to the central wing and to the south wing. And in that book is a picture of almost all the people, and a description of their background. And I think many people have found areas of interest in some of the other residents, or similar experiences, shared education. And I think that's really important for us to know who the people are and where they came from. And that leads to a lot of good friendships.
We do also remind them that we have a no tipping policy. You have wonderful service from the maintenance person or your housekeeper or a waitress or waitstaff. And we explain that there is a way through now it's called Rove, to contribute to that and to show your appreciation for service. And they're all amenable to that. For some people, it's counterintuitive. They're so used to tipping. And so
And when you come in brand new and you need so much help, and you have help every day and all day long, and you want to give them something, I think people feel grateful at that point for the help they get.
Well, they could tip their mentors, but that's
They don't think of that.
No. Let's see.
Well, one of the other things that we try and cover just briefly is some of the different things that people can participate in, such as the different classes or interest groups and activities. And again, it's very confusing for a new person, but sometimes at the orientation, we might mention, when we usually introduce ourselves at the orientation, and I'm involved in a couple of activities, and I usually mention that in case they have any questions or want to join it. And actually, some of the new people have already joined a couple of the groups, which is very encouraging.
And some new residents start groups, like Suzanne started the dulcimer, and
Lucy did the
Lucy
ukulele
did the
group.
ukulele, and so Irene did pinochle. So we say that's open. If you want to start something, just speak to Gretchen. So I think they're happy to hear that. They know it's open.
It's really hard to do all of these things. And you certainly can't do them all in the first real meeting you have together, where you have to get through some of the basic stuff like the garbage room. It's mind-boggling. There is an awful lot to know. And I think so much of it is just being open to subsequent contacts
Each new resident,
and introducing them to people. You
Right.
mentioned
Yeah,
introducing
and
them.
it's important to make
Oh.
the connections.
I agree with you.
each new resident is invited to 2 orientations if they choose, so that what they didn't pick up the first time, they can ask questions the second time. We did have a familiarization tour where new residents could get on one of our buses and be driven around town to see the 14 pizza parlors and other items of interest. But right now that has slowed down with COVID. Why, Dave? Pizza's big.
One thing I've noticed in mentoring is everybody has different needs and different issues. And sometimes I pick up on things that could be perhaps a problem for them. And then I try to get them with, and it's usually going to be Sarah Hall, of course, with the appropriate staff member or resource here at Woodland Pond, if I detect something. I mean, sometimes there are orthopedic problems. Sometimes people either don't use a walker or if they have, you know, a mobile chair, it's new and they're not used to getting in and out of doors with it. You know what I mean? There's just so many things you're going to run into. Some people have hearing problems, other people vision problems. So how are they going to read the darn Chanticleer if they can't read? You know what I mean? You pick up on this and you make sure that all is well with them, or you get them connected with the right person. And which is usually 2, either Mary Jo or Sarah.
Yeah.
I found in the last several months, the biggest confusion was around dining. And I
You
wasn't
found
much
out they're confusing about what?
dining.
Oh, well, aren't we all?
I was just going to say, I wasn't much help there because I was confused too. We do tell them to watch for the weekly Chanticleer and Michelle's notices because things are changing constantly. They're changing this week as we speak. So that's an ongoing challenge. But we're there, we try to help, and we encourage questions. So, speaking of questions, yes,
Well, wait a minute. Just a second. I wanted to know if either one of you, I didn't, just a minute. I wanted to know if either one of you wanted to talk about some of the problems we encountered with COVID, because it really has thrown, you know, a real problem for trying to get new people integrated.
Well, I mean, it's just the isolation has been very difficult for many of the people. And some people are just unsure of how much they can come out. And some people have really just stayed in their apartments for a year and a half, which is not a good thing. We just have to live with it and, you know, be careful. And now the sort of general feeling is if you are masked and socially distanced, it's okay to interact with other people. And we are, in fact, encouraging people. You know, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the audience, and we're encouraging you all to come down here, but be masked and be socially distanced. And that way we can continue some of our social interactions, but we have to be careful. And this may go on for years.
Oh,
one of
great.
our residents.
And this is a doctor speaking. Did you hear what she said? It may go on for years.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I agree. So do the experts. One of our residents, Tamar Opler, has just started a COVID support group. She has 10 people who have signed up. These are people that found the isolation very hard, and maybe they're fearful that it'll happen again. So I think it's a wonderful resource.
I can remember in the beginning of COVID, sitting outside somebody's porch, and they sat on their porch and they gave me a chair or something, and going through the initial meeting like that and going over the handbook and so forth. Another one, we sat on their porch. So I don't know that we thought that was safer, or the rules had said that, whatever. They were handled differently, but it's really hard. One of them was having trouble with the thermostat. You know, and whatever. We weren't supposed to, you know, the shutdown was difficult, and it presented problems.
Well, I know Michelle's doing everything to avoid a shutdown, as Biden is doing, as Hochul is doing. Nobody wants to go back to those days, but you know, the science is driving it.
I think the dining experience is more important in our lives than I had fully realized. I know it was a help for me just to go into the dining room, and that's the way I met people. And I think a lot of the people that have been here for a while say, I don't know any new people. Well, if they're not on the welcome committee, maybe they don't go to the effort that we do to try to meet the new people. There was a special, a couple of happy hours in this month in December. I think is the latest I heard was the 12th and the 14th
We'll
Yeah.
see.
are going to be advertised as a way for ongoing residents to meet the newer residents.
I don't know how you do social distancing.
I don't
in a
know,
happy
I
hour.
don't know about that. That's the 12th and the
Yeah,
14th.
Yeah, we'll
So it's
see.
now in limbo again.
That's not us. That's being put
No,
on
we
by
went to the
management.
administration on that.
Yeah.
The welcome committee did, because we knew you're talking about, 100 or so people, all told, and space and food. So we knew that. I mean, this is just something we worked with the administration on. We couldn't do that by ourselves.
No.
So I don't know how that's going to be, but we just need more ways for ongoing people to get to know the new people.
Hmm. Okay.
Did you have any more to say before we open it to questions?
No, I'd like to open it to questions and more things will come out,
Yeah.
and Dave was bouncing around, so.
Well, I do have a question or comment. I'll take one microphone. So, hi. My own experience was very positive with the welcome committee. I didn't feel like, and I'm lucky, my wife and I moved in together. Some people come in as singles. We had each other, and it was very positive and I guess fairly smooth. But you've spent a little time today talking about some of the challenges. How about some of the rewards? What do you get out of this? Why do you keep coming back for 9 years or 4 years or whatever?
Well, it's a very nice way to meet the new people.
Right.
And it's very good. I love the idea of being able to share my experience and my knowledge, because after all these years, there are all sorts of little things that you pick up. I don't know if you know your little badge, which I should be wearing and I'm not. Even if it's in your purse or something and it's under 2 or 3 layers of leather, if you just push it against the sensor, it will open the door. You don't have to shuffle and take it out. I discovered that, by myself, and it's nice to pass that little silly piece of information on. And the radio programs that you can get here, there's all sorts of little things that you pick up as you've been here for a while, and it's very rewarding to be able to tell somebody some of these little tips. One silly thing that somebody told me, and I never thought about this all my life. In the toilet, you have those big rolls of paper, and there's a cover over it, and if it's not sticking out, it's very, very difficult to start the paper. You have to kind of put your hand in and try and push the paper to make the roll. And Faye Bishop said to me, whenever you use it, always leave a tail in the toilet roll, so the next person can do it. And I thought that was such a silly little thing, but really so helpful. So there's all sorts of stuff like that that you can pass on.
And Dave, from my experience in 9 years or so of mentoring, people that I mentored are all over the complex, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful way to bond. Some of them still joke, "Oh, there's my mentor," but it's great, as June said, to get to know people, to introduce them to other people that they have common interests with, is really a pleasure. So that's my experience.
I'll join in. I think it's fun to be helpful and to be useful. For me, it's also payback, because I've moved enough times and had help from neighbors, people down the hall, wherever I moved. And I really appreciated the help I've had in the past. And it's just sort of like payback.
Another question?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annette.
And
And Alice, we're thinking of you wherever you are.
Yes.